Hey everyone, today is Tuesday, November 24th. The time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature right now is -1 degree Celsius. I'm here just north of the city of Toronto in York region. And I'm currently walking south along Yonge Street. On the east side of Yonge Street, where I am now, is the city of Markham. And just over there on the west side of Yonge Street is the city of Vaughan, both of which are located in York region. And this immediate area is known as Thornhill. The plan for this one is to head south, just past Steeles Avenue, where I will enter the city of Toronto, and then from there I'll head south down to Finch Station at the intersection of Yonge Street and Finch Avenue. What's interesting about York region is they're in what the province describes as the red control zone, whereas the city of Toronto is in the gray control zone, which they are also referring to as being in lockdown. Although I don't think that's quite the most appropriate word for it. But what that entails is, where I am now, retail shops are allowed to have customers come inside. And restaurants, bars, and cafes are allowed to have outdoor dining, whereas just a few blocks south of here in the city of Toronto, none of those things are allowed. There's a salon right now. Someone's getting their hair cut. I don't know if you could see that through the reflection. But that's certainly not allowed just south of here. There's a bike shop. You could go in and browse around. That's another thing you couldn't do in Toronto. A lot of people have noticed that it seems to be somewhat hypocritical that York region is in the red control zone and Toronto is in the gray control zone, considering this is really just a suburb of Toronto. And they're quite tightly integrated with one another. And just to the west of Toronto is the neighboring region of Peel, which has been placed in the red zone, or rather the gray zone. So Peel is under lockdown, as is Toronto, but York is not. And York does have less cases of the virus than Peel, but not by much, and it's also not much smaller than Peel. So it's easy to see why some people would see there as being some kind of favoritism towards York, but let's just wait for this lady who doesn't know how to drive to improperly complete her turn. But that is Steeles Avenue. So that is the main divide between Toronto and York. On the left side is Toronto, and on the right side is York. So this is the city of Toronto I'm now in.
Bound towards stay. Please wear a mask or face cover your eyes.
So unlike the retailers on the other side of the street, these ones aren't able to have customers come inside, including this cannabis shop. And just on the other side of the street is Centre Point Mall. Malls too in Toronto are restricted to only businesses selling essential goods. So most of the stores in that mall would be operating on a curbside pickup basis only. That's also where Target Canada used to be located, right where that large Canada Computers is. Maybe I can zoom in on that. So it's good to see that they found a tenant to fill that spot. And this part of Toronto is referred to as Newtonbrook. Although I bet not too many people in the city of Toronto could have told you that, myself included, if I didn't just look it up on the way over here. There's the Bay department store, one of the anchors of that mall. There is a no-frills grocery store in the mall, so that would be fully open. You'll notice a lot of Asian restaurants in this area. The number 2 and 3 speaking or spoken languages here are Chinese and Korean. I'm not sure which dialects of Chinese. And it looks like there's some parking meters here. I'd be rather surprised to see if they were still functional. I don't see any indications at all that street parking would be allowed here. Here's some restaurants who are not able to serve customers outdoors. Apgujeong restaurant. There's a Korean restaurant with what seems to be a pretty nice patio, but they're not allowed to operate it. This retailer is offering curbside and in-store pickup only. There's a Korean barbecue restaurant. They really must be reeling. There was a brief period where indoor dining was allowed. This used to be an after-hours karaoke bar of sorts. I think you would classify it as a KTV. And here come some York Viva buses. If you do want to travel north of Steeles, you do have to pay an extra fare. I think one of the great failures of Metrolinx and the province in general is the inability to have integrated fare systems between the various transit agencies, especially since you have so many people commuting from York into Toronto every day. People who live around the borders or go from one city to another are often slapped with having to pay double the fare. Most of the residential streets around here are quite suburban in nature. I almost got run over by that e-scooter. And this part of town very much feels like the suburbs. You have strip malls with parking in front. And not much in the way of high-rise development until you get a bit more south of here. There goes a York Region bus. And this is Newton Drive, which I'm sure has something to do with this neighborhood being referred to as Newtonbrook. I just noticed my keys were in my front pocket. I heard them jingle a bit there, so I apologize for that. I have relocated them. That supermarket there would be able to operate as food stores are deemed essential. And a lot of big box retailers in the city are using that as sort of a loophole and using that as an excuse to sell non-essential goods. So essentially in Toronto, you could go into a Walmart or a superstore and look around and buy yourself a toaster, whereas you couldn't do that at a smaller retailer. Oh! CJRH 156. You definitely notice a lot of incredibly inconsiderate drivers around this neighborhood in particular. That's something I picked up on from riding my bike through here. Let's take a look at some of the businesses in this strip mall. Really only the food marts should be open, and I'm realizing this is not the best place to be walking, as a car might reverse out without looking. There's the knucklehead who can't drive. Atlas Travel, that's another business that wouldn't be doing so well right now. There's what looks like an izakaya that's built a rather extensive outdoor patio across the street. And to be completely fair, my only experiences with dining outdoors during this pandemic have been extremely good. The waitstaff were all distanced and wearing masks. It certainly felt like a very safe environment. And it's also good to financially support local businesses that are suffering. There's a salon. And another heated patio now open sign, which obviously isn't the case. I used to work just south of here at Yonge and Finch in one of the two Xerox towers that are part of the North American Center. Although at lunch hour I didn't really venture up to this area too often. There's a Fry, a Korean fried chicken chain that's popped up in recent years. It's rather good. And I don't know if this area got a lot more snow than Toronto or not, but it certainly feels like it. Most of the sidewalks in my area were completely bone dry. That is obviously not the case here. So as I was saying earlier, the big box retailers are able to, that was nice, I almost got splashed, are able to sell non-essential goods and various household items, whereas small retailers can only operate through curbside pickup. And there seems to be a growing and somewhat immense frustration over that in the city of Toronto. And it doesn't really matter which side of the fence people are on, if they're pro-lockdown or not. I think the contradiction and hypocrisy of it all is sort of what's being called out. Why are you letting the big corporations have an unfair advantage over small retailers and then not providing the necessary support to prevent the small retailers from going out of business? And when these restrictions were announced last Friday, the Premier didn't really have any statistics or science-based claims to back up the reason. He merely stated that he had consulted the experts. Which is fair. It just seems as if the measures that they did put in place seem to almost exclusively target small businesses. And in my opinion, they are what sort of make up the heart and soul and the fabric of each neighborhood and community in Toronto. And they're dropping like flies left and right these days. And this right here on the left used to be a very large plaza that had a can of computers in it. I'm assuming that's the location that moved up north, the Centerpoint Mall. There was a restaurant there called Kanji Time, which I went to on my lunch break quite often. That was very good. There was a large supermarket and a bowlerama. They had 5 and 10 pin bowling. It was a large one, and it was one of the last few places you could go in this city, at least off of the subway to bowl. That's kind of a shame. You'd have to wonder if they would have survived the pandemic. I get the feeling Doug Ford seems like the bowling type, so they probably would have pulled through. And there's a look at the condo developments coming in here. It'll be neat to come back and take a look once they have gone up. That is an enormous construction site. And it's really not a bad location at all to live. You're just steps from Finch Station to the south of here and the Willowdale neighborhood, which has a lot to offer. There goes the 60 bus. I used to work in an office near Dufferin and Steeles, and I would come up to Finch Station and jump aboard the 60 West. So that would go north up to Steeles, and then it would turn west, and I would get off at Dufferin. I don't think that guy's going to want to use that thing anymore. And the problem with that bus was it was always pretty good from Finch Station heading out to Dufferin and Steeles, but coming the other way it was rather terrible. You'd often wait 20 minutes for a bus that's supposed to come every few minutes, and then 5 or 6 of them would come bumper to bumper. The first one would be packed, and then there would be 4 or 5 empty buses right after. This light doesn't seem to want to change here. There's a look into the construction zone. And another problem with that bus is you could wait on the west side of Dufferin Street to catch the regular bus, or wait on the east side to catch the express bus. But oftentimes when it was busy, the express bus would stop on the west side and fill up with people, and then it would drive right past the people that were waiting for it on the east side. I even complained to the TTC about that happening a few times, and they apologized profusely and said that the operators were dealt with, whatever that means. But it kept happening like clockwork almost every single day, particularly in the winter. So what's the point of having an express bus if it's not going to stop at the right side? I know I'm venting a little bit, but that was supremely frustrating. And you often hear stories like that of people that live away from the downtown core that don't get to deal with the same kind of reliable transit service that we get. Well, reliable is a relative word. But the further deep you go into the city, buses do seem to be a bit more reliable. You don't get that bunching problem as often. Maybe it's just the cold weather, but I realize I've been a bit on the negative side on this walk. I apologize for that. These certainly are trying times for us. And we are watching the city get gutted by a virus and what I think are rather poor political decisions. And this here is the Finch bus terminal. That's where you'd catch the blue Viva buses to York region. You can also catch the Go bus. And just that way is the Finch Hydro Corridor, which is a rather neat bicycle route. I don't think I'll be doing that one in the winter though. There's a look at the building I used to work at in the North American Center. And that entrance will take you into the subway portion of Finch Station. So just south of here is Finch Avenue, and then you'd be entering the Willowdale neighborhood, which loosely runs between Finch and Shepherd. I've certainly done a number of videos through there before, although this was my first time ever recording north of Finch in a walking video. I've done that on a few cycling videos before. It's interesting to see how most of these businesses have changed since I used to work in this area well over a decade ago, although this Hakeem Optical was still there. There's a look into the TTC bus terminal at Finch Station. So I think what I'll do is I'll head down to Finch and I'll end this video, and I might fire up a live stream. I just hit 25,000 subscribers right before I pressed record on this walk. So I might do a little live stream. So definitely a big shout out and thank you to everyone who's subscribed to the channel and supported me over the years. There will certainly be a lot more videos to come, hopefully of a more positive nature. And we are here. This is Yonge and Finch. And I think I'll actually head down into the subway station as I need to use the facility there. I will bring you with me, not all the way into the washroom of course, but we'll go down and take a look in the station. Let me just throw my mask on. And here's where you could enter the North American Center on the left, although I don't think there will be too many people working in those offices today or anytime soon. This is the terminus station of Line 1. There is talk of extending it out to York Region, but they definitely need to build that relief line before they get that far. And there's where the washroom is located. And it does not appear to be open. That's fun. All right, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this walk from the city of Markham down through the city of Toronto, through the Newtonbrook neighborhood, down to Finch Station. There are links to my Patreon in the description if you wish to support the channel, as well as my Instagram account. And you can check out channel memberships on the main YouTube page. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you on the next one.